Is this thing on? Hello, hello. Welcome to Open Pike Night. I'm your host, John T. Bolts, here tonight with some amazing guests on stage and in the studio to have a conversation about the first ever Christopher Pike episode, the first ever episode to feature the Enterprise, the first episode ever. Joining me today are my co-hosts, the man who knows how to use radio waves to cause as much interference as possible to get noticed, host of Sudden But Inevitable, Jesse.
Hey, John. What would you think about being in a husband-wife relationship with me?
And the man who knows how to channel his hate and anger to ward off those pesky Telosians, host of Green Shirt, a newbie's trek through TNG, Cameron.
I'll take pleasure in gutting you, boy.
Tonight we have a wonderful guest for his first visit on the Open Pike Night Stage, a man who loves to share his dreams of Star Trek for anybody who wants to watch and listen, Julian Brown of Strange New Pod. Welcome to Open Pike Night.
Oh, thank you for having me. I am so thrilled to be on your show finally. Why didn't you ask me sooner, guys? Really, what's going on? What happened?
You had us on your show, and we participated in Picard Week, and it's just fun to be here with another fantastic Star Trek podcast. And man, I got to tell you, there's been a lot of excitement about the fact that we're discussing The Cage tonight. People have been waiting for this, apparently.
I'm going to take this opportunity to answer Julian's question. Mm-hmm. What John was trying to explain, Julian, is just that we're a tit-for-tat kind of show. So once people have, allowed us to appear with them, they appear with us.
You scratch my tribble, I'll scratch yours. Got it.
Right. Yeah. So we're hoping to extend that to the cast of the
we just thought you had your fill of talking about Strange New Worlds with your Strange New Pod.
Never. I was obviously joking too, but really, why didn't you have me on before?
Yeah.
No, I love Strange New Worlds. I love, by the way, I'm going to toot your guys' horn again. I love what you're doing. I love your interviews. You guys freaking rock. So thrilled to be here, honestly.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. It's been incredible to see what's happened in our first year. We just passed our 1 year anniversary. How long is Strange New Pod? You guys have been, what,
we're
a couple years now?
On 3 years in May, okay. I think. Yeah, in May.
Excellent.
So that's crazy to me. This was a Dare podcast, and 3 years later, Jesus. So, yeah, it's wild.
Well, anybody out there who is listening on a podcasting app has probably heard Strange New Pod if they're into Star Trek and podcasting. So we figured, if we're going to go back to the beginning, why not reach out to a powerful ally and see if we can figure out just what is even going on in this episode. Now, very cool thing. Okay, John, I'll be honest. I didn't know you hadn't seen this before. I didn't know this was your first time.
Yeah, I first watched The Cage less than 24 hours ago.
Wow.
And yeah, I have some thoughts.
I watched it about a year ago because I had started watching, I was making my way through season 2 of Discovery, and I forget the name of that episode, but the one that starts with the previously on.
Oh,
and I was like,
so good.
Oh, maybe I should watch the previously on. So then I paused Discovery and watched The Cage.
So the very, very, very quick backstory is I started Strange New Pod because I dared myself, if they announced Strange New Worlds because of what they were doing on Disco season 2, I was going to start a Star Trek podcast. Just had to do it.
Okay.
And when that happened, I was like, well, yeah, if we're doing a Strange New Worlds podcast, we have to start with The Cage. So I think we did The Cage, Menagerie, anything that had Pike with it, which I think was those 2 episodes, but like Spock number 1. Yeah. So it's an episode. It's an episode.
It's a fascinating episode.
Yes.
I'm really excited to get into it with you guys, and I'm really excited to get into it with some callers. It's been a little while since we had people call in about an episode, you guys. I mean, I'm not complaining, right? Because we've had people calling in to talk to the people who make and star in Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which is mind-blowingly cool for us. But we can't have a show called Open Pike Night without examining the origins of Captain Pike, right? Like, we have to do that. So I'm really excited. I just watched it again last night, after watching the latest episode of Picard, which we can't talk about because Cameron hasn't even seen season 1 of Picard.
In 2 years, guys, we'll be able to talk all about it. Don't worry.
But
on our 3rd year anniversary.
Oh, wow. All right. Yes, we will. We will.
In 2 years, I'm just waiting for the text from Cam to be like, "What the crap? They really did that?" Yeah.
I literally would bet money on how Cameron will react to the first 2 seasons of that show.
Oh yeah.
I have lots of opinions on the first 2 seasons of that show. So many opinions.
They're very opinion-inducing seasons.
They
Let's
are
put it
indeed.
that way.
They are
It's
indeed.
our job as podcasters to have opinions.
Exactly.
I wasn't
I
sure.
love this job.
So much.
Well, like Jesse's mentioned, we do have calls. We have a couple calls from first-time callers, and we have calls from long-time callers. I think we'll start with a couple of long-time callers.
Hi, it's Peter again. This is a great idea to revisit Star Trek First Pilot.
I am so glad you're finally covering The Cage, and with Julian from Strange New Pod. What's up, Julian?
I would like to talk about one of my favorite scenes, the scenes early in the story between Pike and Dr. Boyce in Pike's quarters.
Particularly how they chose to parallel it a little bit in the first episode of Strange New Worlds. So we find Pike, he's kind of disillusioned with Starfleet. He's looking to run away in a sense. He talks about his land. He talks about his love of horses.
I also like Boyce's line, sometimes a man will tell his bartender things he'll never tell his doctor. I felt that Boyce would have easily fit into the Enterprise crew and be a successful chief medical officer.
I love that there is this need for the captain to have a sounding board. And there's a little bit of Guinan sneaking in here too, like the idea of the bartender. And I mean, look, Picard and Beverly were known to have some drinks as well, but Boyce has some really great lines here and is just calling the captain out on his own issues and on his own maybe lies that he's telling himself.
These themes will carry over to later Star Trek with Kirk and McCoy, who will have similar conversations on TOS. While Strange New Worlds takes place years after The Cage, I hope Dr. Boyce will be a guest star in a future episode or 2, especially if he can be portrayed by Trek guest actor Jeffrey Combs. That's it for now. I look forward to hearing your thoughts about The Cage. Live long and prosper.
All right, guys, live long and prosper.
God damn it, Peter. That's a great suggestion.
Right.
Yeah, that's good.
Literally in my notes. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
fantastic TNG connections, Michelle. Those are
Love
great.
And seriously, Jeffrey Combs, like that would be a fantastic guest role.
Yeah, I definitely think we're going to get a Boyce at some point. I mean, you can look at these characters in this episode and go, why did they include them? And obviously it was because they wanted more than just a bunch of old white dudes on the bridge of Strange New Worlds. So I'm fine. I love all our new characters and everything. But yeah, I bet as the seasons go, we're going to progressively see Dr. Boyce is going to show up. He's got to. I bet we see Ewan. I don't know if she had a name, but I bet she pops up at some point. I bet we get some cameos from these characters.
I think it was a mistake not having him in. I love Mbenga, and I think they could have had a way to have both of them. I actually think their two different styles of being a doctor would have been really funny to see them kind of clash in sickbay. But yeah, Jeffrey Combs wanted to play the role. Like he did a little small Twitter campaign and everybody was for it, and it hasn't happened yet.
I kind of, I mean, we're going to talk about Rigel 7 later. I'm wondering if, we know that they're revisiting Rigel 7 in season 2. I'm wondering if they visited there between The Cage and season 2. I'm wondering if Dr. Boyce is there, like they had left a party there for some reason and they're going in to check in on them in season 2. I don't know. It's a wild theory.
If they want to go that route, they could do the flashback route. I mean, I know it's a little bit hard to do that because I don't think that Ortegas was on the bridge yet, and I think she's in that episode where they're going down. So they could, I guess, they could retcon stuff, but a flashback would be cool to like the thing that made him almost quit Starfleet. So I'm down.
Ortegas could be seriously injured, so maybe she was in sickbay for the entirety of The Cage.
True.
We're gonna get to that. I promise.
Oh, good.
I kept wondering, like, man, everybody keeps bringing up Boyce every time we talk about TOS and like bringing characters back. And now that I finally watched The Cage, I'm like, oh, Boyce is hands down the most developed character in that one episode.
100%.
I see why everybody wants Boyce more than it's like, okay, well, we've got Pike, but it's like, oh, because Boyce is the most interesting person on screen for that
we've
entire
got
episode.
dancing Orions. We've got mind control aliens with amazing throbbing prosthetics. We've got blasting of lasers and all this amazing stuff. And the best scene of the episode is the Doctor and the Captain having a conversation for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's probably arguable depending on the viewer, but
Absolutely it is. But
I legitimately feel that McCoy was sort of pulled out of Boyce, right? Like they went, okay, let's take the parts of him that we really like and we'll amplify those, and we'll put him in not a jumpsuit. Which, I mean, I like the jumpsuit, honestly, personally. This Pike is definitely, he's definitely flawed, right? We can't talk about this Pike without mentioning that he's misogynistic, etc. Maybe like having some confidence issues. But I legitimately feel like that is by design, and that his trek would be about becoming a better person and captain, right? Like they're showing that like even leadership is fallible, but they have to, put some things aside to be a good leader. And I really feel like they were attempting to maybe paint too multifaceted a picture with him for the era of television that they were going to be on.
The fact that they're giving the protagonist this huge of an arc in the pilot, I mean, that's very progressive, not like progressive in the ways it's not in other ways. But I mean, that's not something like even nowadays shows don't do a lot. Like they were really ahead of their time with that. And I do think maybe the actor wasn't up for the challenge of portraying that arc.
He wasn't. He was very wooden.
His eyes were up for everything, but everything else.
They were piercing blue and very difficult to look away from. Do you think Pike always reclines saucily while waiting for his doctor?
Yes. The answer is yes. Yes,
we didn't see him do that in Strange New Worlds.
You say waiting, but that was the fastest house call ever. It was 3 seconds between hanging up the phone and him appearing at the door.
Okay, there's a lot of stuff in this episode that happens because they need somebody to walk from one side of the screen to the other, Cameron. Like let's be real, okay?
Fair. Okay.
But I think even Pike was surprised. He was like, okay, I've got time to look good. I'm going to get like a nice mist going.
Doctor.
And then like the door went off. He was like, oh, I guess not. I guess I'll just stand up.
It's like Michelle said, it's just like Picard and Beverly, maybe, their relationship.
I think he just learned from Boyce after that not to lay down on the bed just to make himself a drink, because how many times in his quarters is he there like with a whiskey in Strange New Worlds? So he learned something from that encounter.
Yep, there you go.
I think that's something that stuck, right? So on the list of things that stuck for Pike, we have piercing blue eyes, hair of indeterminate color, and drinking. Those are the three things.
That's about it. That's about
what
it.
we've got so far.
Horse loving.
We haven't gotten there yet, but yes. And let's not phrase it that way, but yes.
I don't see the problem.
Yes, I know you don't.
I'm impressed with, now that, I read the trivia and stuff, like, okay, so the network saw this pilot and was like, no, but do it again. I'm like, yeah, those first 5 minutes would have lost millions of viewers. Like, what a terrible start to a pilot. And I have my don't judge a show by its pilot rule, but damn. And then you follow it up with, like Cam said, the best scene in the whole episode. Like it is an odd swap, because at first I was like, I'm gonna have to have whiskey myself to get through this episode. And I'm like, oh wow, now I'm really enjoying this very quickly.
I don't know, those first few scenes feel very Trek to me.
Yeah. Oh, they're Trek, but like you are like, you're on your couch, you just got home from work, you have your TV dinner in the 60s, and you want to watch like 5 minutes of them staring at the screen go,
yeah,
and Spock yelling to wake you up from your micro nap,
and listening to an actual alarm go off while somebody kind of ignores it, and he's like,
he looks at it though.
Okay, I think everyone can hear that. I should probably mention it.
Guys, you're forgetting what happens just before that. The bubble, the putting the bridge of the ship in the most delicate, fragile part of the ship, but having this cool. I mean, I don't know what is the remaster and what isn't.
It's the remaster, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's the
you don't think they went through it all in the original?
No, they did.
I haven't.
They did,
but the model in the remaster is definitely CG.
Oh, like, sure, yeah.
But yes, the shot is a recreation of what they did. Yeah,
that's cool. I mean, again. Do not put the bridge in a bubble. That's a terrible design idea, guys. But for the shot, it was great.
Yeah, I was impressed. I was like, dang, they did good in this. Oh, that's right. This is remastered. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
I was about to give them a lot of credit.
Oh, they're all wearing sweaters. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Because it's cold in space is why.
Yeah.
That's why you wear a sweater,
Very
right?
cold in space.
Actually, that does lead into Abby's call a little bit with the costumes. And
Oh, great.
Hey, Open Pike. It's Abby Summer from the First Flight podcast. I am so glad that you guys are revisiting the cage. It's always good to go back to the beginning, isn't it? Now, I'm sure there's plenty that you're going to talk to from your other people, but one of the things that always strikes me when I watch this one, being the little costume nerd that I am, is all of the costumes in here are so different and yet so recognizable to what we have seen come after for Starfleet and Star Trek in general. I mean, come on, those velvets are just fantastic. And the colors and all of the goggles and the away team jackets
Yes.
and even the Telosians, the costuming on this was just on point. And who can forget Vina in all her sparkliness. But, you know, for this being when it was in the 60s, this was some far out costuming, but it was also something that was familiar enough that they kept that aesthetic as they moved into more of TOS. So I just always like going back and seeing the very beginnings of these and then thinking about how many uniform variations we've seen since then. What, 40, 50, 110,000? They just keep coming up with them. Thanks, Picard. But it's always fun for me to look back at this one. And while there's plenty of other things to talk about, this is the one that always jumps out for me. So hope you and yours are well, and we will talk again soon.
yeah, she makes a great point because I think at the point when it gets to the Orion planet and they're there for a little while, I was like, man, this episode is ambitious for a pilot. Like they at first, for what seemed like starting so slow, they went all out. And it was great to see, like she said, the jackets. I'm like, they based the Strange New Worlds action jackets off of these. Like, this is great to see.
Yeah, the only costumes that really jumped out to me were the two extras apparently off duty that passed Pike in the corridor in the beginning, who looked like they just walked off of like a beach party set.
Are those civilians on the Enterprise, or are those people that are off duty?
They're coming back from the Enterprise pool.
We never.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we never know. That's my point. Like maybe this was the idea of there'd be civilians there because I don't know why.
You mean like the Enterprise D, you know, the luxury liner with families that went to the Battle of Wolf 359 and
Eject all the kindergartens.
Man, that's the worst anybody's ever done on that.
Okay. My thing here is I love the sweaters. To Abby's point, I kind of would really love to touch this. I mean, probably not now because you probably get like asbestos poisoning or something. But like, they look super comfy on screen. And let's talk about the Telosians, right? Like the little air puffs in the brains of them reminded me so specifically of the Shepherds of Mahani because they had the exact same little air puffs in the front of their heads. Some air brain veins. I was just very happy to see that. And is there a reason that the back of their heads is so how would you describe the back of a Telosian head?
Cleft?
That's a good one. Peach-like.
If you want the practical answer, if I'm not mistaken, and I feel like I read this in trivia somewhere once, it maybe looked like that because I think there was an entryway and there was a tube and someone was pumping air to do the vein throb. I'm 99% sure that's true.
And they had to split it so that it would go to both sides.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I think.
That makes good sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Is there any way to discuss these heads without it sounding like a penis? Is there any adjective that can't apply to both?
They're too veiny to begin with.
Veiny.
So, yeah.
Pulsating.
Throbbing.
There's no way around it.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Abby made a great point though about it moving into the future and like how these outfits, which do look comfy, but I would just sweat to death on the bridge.
Oh my God.
I would be dead.
Right?
I would be dead. I immediately always go to John Luke's smoking jacket and the velvety goodness of it, even though it's my, like, I hate that thing. But that like, I feel like is very reminiscent of the Cage outfit and just the way it fits, and then the gray underneath. And I'm like, you casual man, you.
And then the DS9 era sweater, the under sweaters, like, oh, this is, I can absolutely see where those came from, the gray sweaters. So
I think that in retrospect, the pajamas that Riker wears are actually an homage to Brothel Pike, because that outfit was like, what is this? And you've got some kind of cool like necklace adornment going on. That was one of the weirdest outfits, but like every outfit in that scene, to your point, was really strange. And yeah, I kind of hope that we get some version of Brothel Pike, because I mean, you guys think about the Elysian Kingdom and what Bernadette Croft has been doing with Strange New Worlds.
They've
like,
got to
get
go
out
to
of my
Risa
head.
at some point, right?
Seriously, like
Strange
I
New
want to
Worlds
see
is the series to go to Risa.
Yeah,
yes, absolutely.
Rigel or Risa.
No, Risa.
Both.
I don't think he's going to be in pajamas in Rigel.
Oh.
No, but hear me out. Season 2 or 3, and Jesse, you're in my head right now. Elysian Kingdom-esque, right? Maybe it's the mirror universe, and Pike, did become this badass Orion pirate king, and we get to see that. Also, just completely off topic, the music during that scene is freaking fantastic. Also.
Yeah.
But I would love to see Orion Pirate King Pike with necklace in tow.
That would be fascinating if they retconned it so the cage was all mirror universe.
Oh, that'd be
that was
interesting.
that was the mirror version of Pike's journey.
Yeah,
That'd be
I could
fun.
see that.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of makes sense because he's hanging out with the two biggest sleaze bags in the galaxy.
Okay.
One of whom is a Starfleet officer.
I like
John,
that outfit too.
I have to ask you, John, do you think that rather than Kirk, that this Pike is the actual inspiration for Zap Brannigan? Because a sexy orphan, you say?
Boy, I mean,
Weird.
I would not be surprised. It's like, okay, this is obviously a very, very, very troubled man.
Yeah.
From the very beginning of the episode, was like, man, okay, so one sexy girl dancing, and he's like, oh God, I'm about to throw it all away for Vina the Orion girl. Come on, Pike.
Now, to be fair, he does mostly seem to resist.
Oh, no,
what's going on,
and he's being
like
mind controlled. Like I get it. Like
I was like the very instance of that. I was like, oh, they're playing this as like a romantic moment, not as like. And then there was a predator.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and what we're supposed to take is that, like, even the Helosians are amazed at his willpower, and they have to bring down the only other women in the episode to try to sway him, seduce him.
But it's also hard to tell with Jeffrey Hunter's dead eyes. So,
Yes.
But they're still
Seriously,
beautiful.
of dead
But
eyes,
piercing
you know
dead
who didn't
eyes.
have dead eyes were the people who wore more safety gear than we got to see in the next 850 episodes of Star Trek.
That's right.
Bravo.
Pike's Enterprise had seatbelts, damn it. It did.
And goggles. They wore goggles when firing a laser. Like modern day PPE.
Data and Geordi
They
would
were even
never
the right
do
color.
that.
Well, Data and Geordi wouldn't need to, specifically because one of them's an android and one of them has a visor that filters out harmful radiation. But
That's what I meant. They would never do it. Yeah.
but we can tell that Pike's eyes are blue, right? Like they're supposed to be.
Ice blue.
What color is Jeffrey Hunter's hair?
But
Is
what
it-
color is Pike's hair in Strange New Worlds and Discovery? Well, we know what color it is in Strange New Worlds.
In
But
Strange
it's
New
like 5
Worlds,
different
it's
colors
silver.
in Discovery.
Yeah, it's holy silver in Strange New Worlds, but in I mean, you're right. In Discovery, it looks more like Jeffrey Hunter's hair. Which is that just wet gray? Is that the name of that color? Like
Wet asphalt? Asphalt? Would it be asphalt?
Walked out of a sleazy dive bar, greasy gray hair.
I remember a lot of people saying, like, man, Anson Mount, they really nailed the casting. He's just like Jeffrey Hunter. And like, it's like, I mean, they're both classically handsome, and that's about it.
it's the eyes and the hair color
I
options.
mean, they both have impressive hair and eyes, but in different ways. And then the characters are very different. Like, I don't know what people are talking about when they compare the two. I mean, I love Anson Mount's Pike, of course. And I think
they're
they're in
talking
the right
about the
direction,
eyes.
but- okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
I legitimately think that's. I mean, because like when you see Anson Mount, the first thing you look at is his eyes.
The hair?
And then you're like, oh, and the rest of you is equally amazing. This is crazy.
I think there's some moments in the cage where Pike gets angry Like he's mad and he even says like, oh yeah, like my blood's boiling and blah, blah, blah. And there's definitely moments in season 2 of Disco where Pike gets angry about things, and I think you can make that comparison. Like they both play that very similar, but that's more. I guess if we're saying like that is more, I don't know. I think it does work a little bit, if that makes sense. I don't think that most of it is Jeffrey Hunter, but I think in those instances it is.
Like we mentioned, the character went through a pretty good arc in this episode, but he still didn't really lay much of a groundwork as far as like, if you're going to play this character, here's what you do, right? Like,
right? No,
because he's arguably the first instance of the ultra competent, like good at everything Starfleet officer, right? Which sort of makes him, how do you explain that guy? Well, he's very smart. He's also very handsome. He's also virile. He's also, strong. Like it's like he does everything correctly.
Hates women.
On paper, it's the exact same character as Kirk. And I think that just goes to show William Shatner's acting prowess. Say what you will about the man. You want to watch him, no matter what character he be playing. This character, which, yes, on paper is not great, but he draws you in. And that's the difference between him and Jeffrey Hunter. Why does Star Trek always do this? So they set up this character and then they have him spend most of the episode like so out of sorts and like I'm going to be angry. I'm filling my thoughts with hatred. And you're like, well, is this you as a character or are you
how they feel?
Are you behaving out of character? I can't tell because this is the pilot. The only thing worse would be to have an episode where everyone gets drunk and acts out of character as the second episode of your series.
No one would do that.
Why would you
Cameron.
ever do that?
Oh,
no one would do that.
That is a season 2 episode.
It's like a season 4 episode, when you know who the characters are.
Exactly, Jesse.
But, okay, last costuming note. Why is the monster that Pike fights just a very tall man who cannot speak, apparently? Like, that feels a little mean.
That monster. I thought you were talking about the furry monster. I was like, that was a decent monster outfit for the 60s. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
On that
General
note, Cameron,
Kale, yes.
As he looks past the pig gorilla, he's like, okay, yep, standard pig gorilla. And then he sees the bird person and he's like, oh my gosh, that's terrifying.
That's because it's a it's a Twin Peaks bird. I want an entire episode on that Twin Peaks bird.
Right?
What is happening?
Ooh, the bird that moves in reverse? This is awesome.
He's from that bird's from the planet that Peanut Hamper crash landed on. Boom, retcon.
I thought he was a Tengu warrior from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, personally.
Hell yeah. And then I like the one that's just like finger shadows. Yeah. It's like, oh, there's something way back there. It's definitely somebody's fingers just going like this in front of a light. But,
okay. And the glass for the force field, really clean.
Pretty
I walked
good.
into that.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
Cool little green shirt Open Pike Night behind the scenes story. I've seen people from these podcasts walk into glass doors.
not just once.
Twice, and I was one of them. So it's okay for me to tell that story.
We were going out to dinner for my birthday the other night, and it went to this Italian place, and there's like a ramp up, and you open one door, and the other door was really clean. My poor 7-year-old walked right into the door. And it's like, she thought that we were mad at her. She's like, I didn't know there was another door there. And I'm like, baby, it's okay. I did that when my parents replaced their screen door. It happens to all of us.
Did you tell her, Phoebe, you just got caged?
But I will next time.
I'm going to take my kid to a room full of revolving doors now.
Yeah.
I feel like you can see what they wanted this character to be more than you can see what he became, right? Like,
sure.
It's like there's so much potential here. It's just that I think maybe it was you, Cameron, who said this episode is too ambitious for a pilot. Like, there's just so much happening in it that it's like,
I agree.
I can't figure out like which thing I'm attached to, because about halfway through, I'm like, okay, they can leave him here. I'd watch the Spock and Una show. Like,
right? Una's an amazing leader. She is an awesome leader.
Yep.
She and like her conversations with Boyce are great. And I don't know who Spock is in this character, but I'm willing to go along with him for a while. That's another weird pilot thing is like, let's take the captain and separate him from the crew for the entire pilot. And you're like, well, what? Aren't we going to be following this crew around?
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't we get to know who everyone is and how they relate? No? Okay.
if he's supposed to be a tortured soul, which I think was the first point they were trying to make about him, it's like, yeah, this was not the episode, not the type of development to show us his. I mean, April coming back and just repeatedly telling him, go do your job, was more convincing as to why he's still the captain.
John, when this came out, having somebody tell you your coworkers are hot for you, and then you tell that person, I'm going to kill you dead, brain guy. Like, that is...
What is wrong with this guy? He's so tormented.
Yeah, that's a tormented soul when this came out.
True.
Like,
that's true.
That's true.
You know, I think at least I do. I'll openly admit I overly complain about television being too short these days, especially during the streaming era where there's no business with television shows not being an hour long every time. Luckily, Picard season 3 is breaking that mold, and all of those episodes have been like an hour.
Yep.
But, you know, you didn't have as many commercials in the 60s, and if this episode is 63 minutes, somewhere in the cage is a really good 45-minute episode. If you edit it down and get rid of like staring at the screen for 5 minutes and Spock yelling at everybody. And I think you could probably cut out a few of the Telosians' mind games. And there is a good episode in here, but a 60-minute pilot that is scattered in all these different ways just did not work.
It feels very unfocused. I mean, that's what you guys have just been saying, but like, yeah, I don't watch and go, oh, I know who these characters are. I know what this show will be.
Yeah.
I know the world it exists in. It doesn't quite know what it is yet.
But it is highly conceptual and like, badass. And a lot of fun to watch. It's just like some parts you're like, why did they, like you would with anything, you're like, why did they make that choice? It doesn't feel like it makes sense.
Yeah.
And why does he keep calling it a husband-wife relationship?
Immediately jumps to this, you are going to be together forever kind of thing.
Like,
No, I think we're mates. We're mates in an ark or a zoo. That's, I think, what he's doing.
No, but like wouldn't he just say, oh, you want us to be married? Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
That seems like it would be faster to say.
They had to fill up 63 minutes, Jesse.
And
it's
that's
already
what I'm
stretched a lot.
I legitimately feel like some of it was like, okay, the show isn't long enough yet. Like, keep going. Because, some of it was going to be on a brand new TV that can show color and stuff, right? So that's part of, I think, probably why they were like, oh, just stare at the screen. It'll be fine. People will love it. Like, show a klaxon going off.
Did you see that? Like, the heads move? The heads move.
Like,
you could also probably blame it on Gene a little bit because we know that Gene did not like being told no and that he did not like to be edited, and he probably had someone come up and be like, Gene, this is a little long. He was probably like, fuck you.
Well, and they were probably like, hey, what if there were no blaring machinery over all of your dialogue? And he's like, that's how it would be in the Navy. So that's
a great
that
point
way
too, Jesse.
Somebody mentioned that online, and
Michael
Kwan mentioned that. Yeah, I was trying to picture, like, okay, had this aired in 1966, like, what kind of cigarette commercials would have been between these breaks? Just trying to imagine, like, man, I'm erase the next 50 years. It's like, what would this have been like? What would the commercials for this episode be like? Because it would be possibly even more confusing.
Sometimes with these old shows, I wish they'd still leave the commercials in the streaming.
Right?
I'm like, I want to see the old school.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Hunter selling Elmer's glue.
Right. God, it'd be strange if they still did commercials that way these days. Let's hear from a new caller. Here is Kate.
Hey, Open Pike Night. This is Kate. Long-time listener, first time calling in. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you guys for putting out this show and as frequently as you can. Anyways, my question, since I haven't actually seen The Cage since last summer, is in the Discord chat, we got to talking about the differences between Jeffrey Hunter, Bruce Greenwood, who played Pike in Star Trek 2009, and Anson Mount. And somebody made the notion that Greenwood's performance and the script for 2009 gave Pike sort of a father role to Kirk that he had never had before. And I get the sense that Mount sort of has that same quality, except whereas Pike in 2009 was a father figure to Kirk, Mount seems like a father figure, in some cases a brother figure, to the rest of the Strange New Worlds crew. And I just was curious if I could get your guys' thoughts on that and opinions between the three actors' performances. Thank you, and live long and prosper.
Kate, welcome to the Open Pike Night Stage. Good to have you.
Finally hear from you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was waiting for a chance to say that Jeffrey Hunter's Pike feels like angry space stepdad, while Mounts feels like the cool space dad, and Greenwood is definitely somewhere in the between there. He feels kind of maybe more grandfatherly, the space granddad. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Like an alternate timeline dad, sort of a thing.
Well, there's that. Yeah.
I really like Greenwood's Pike a lot, and I actually do think that Greenwood and Mount are closer in character than either of them are to Hunter. I don't think that. I could be dead wrong. I don't think anyone went to Bruce Greenwood or Anson Mount and was like, do your best, Jeffrey Hunter. I think we already talked about that. But I don't think anybody was ever saying that. But I do think that there's a chance that Anson Mount went and watched, the 2009 movies, the JJ verse, and maybe took a little bit of that because they are similar in some ways. I would say that I feel like less brotherly is Anson than just like the joking dad to every single person on that bridge and on the ship.
I think the thing about Greenwood is that you could argue that he was the first time we ever felt an emotion for Pike, right? Like, because we've known, ostensibly we've known that Pike still has kind of a messed up fate, even in the original series where he wasn't part of the pilot. He was in the menagerie, right?
Yeah.
So even there, we're kind of just introduced to a guy and told feel bad for him because look, and it's a little clumsy. But like in 2009, and I think 2009 did this with a lot of the characters, honestly, it gave us an actual emotional connection to them. Because like for me, I grew up being told, watch the original series because it's great. And I grew up on it and I was like, oh, you're right. It's great. I love it. But it was like, I didn't have my own natural experience with those characters. I did have that with the 2009 characters, and Greenwood has this paternal quality that's not disapproving, but it's like that he has expectations for you, right? And you naturally want to meet those expectations. He really does a good job of bringing that across on screen. Now, I love his chemistry with Chris Pine. I think that they are the reason that movie works. Like, I think you could show the bar scene as an elevator pitch and get a movie out of it. Like,
yeah. Also, one of the best line deliveries. I am relieved.
100%. And to have like the same level of, I want to gain this person's approval in a genuine way coming through in Mount's performance is really impressive to me, because it's like, he's not doing any of the same stuff. The character literally has none of the same story beats except ends up in a beeping chair. And it's like, man, to pull a similar vibe out of that character without having read the same script, I think is really cool.
True. Good point.
I think also, going back to what you were just saying, is the minute that he picks Kirk up off the floor and is like, you okay, kid? And he gives the whole speech about his dad. You're not only invested in Kirk now. That's like when you really get invested in Kirk, right? But you're like, this guy's a good guy. Like, this Pike is a really good dude. So by the time you're watching, has everybody seen all of the movies, I hope?
Oh, yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, good. By the time you've seen Into Darkness.
I'm caught up on those.
Okay.
Yeah, fair question.
Didn't know. By the time you get to Into Darkness, you're furious. You're pissed off when they kill him off. It's like, I wanted him to be in this franchise because you can kind of think he gets away with it in the first one because he's still alive and he's only in the wheelchair, and then he's walking with a cane. The next one, he's like, okay, he's going to be a part. Oh,
he's fine.
Yeah. I think it's legitimately possible that Bad Robot saw the reaction to the character and, how great Greenwood did with that and went, we could make a Pike show. I mean, I know that that's not directly, it wasn't like an A to B thing, but like, that had to be part of proof of concept, right? Like, look, we know people will love this character. If you give him the right actor, we just got to give him the right actor and give that actor time to shine. And man, I personally, I'd love to see Greenwood show up as like Pike's dad or something in Strange New Worlds, right? Like, I'm that kind of fan that's like, yeah, cool. give me the chintzy cat, the chintzy casting. I'm fine with that.
It's like when the original Flash actor showed up as Barry, as the Flash, but then he also played Barry's dad in the Flash. It's like, I love those things. Yeah.
I'm super here for that.
Yeah.
always here for that.
All right. Our next caller is our good friend, Mark.
Yes.
Hi, Open Pike Night. This is Engineer Mark. And today, the show is going to be about the cage, the one that started it all for Trek. On this subject from down here in engineering, my thoughts go back to the idea that, yeah, there was nothing about Trek when they started this. There was no canon. There was no preconceptions. It was literally Gene and his wagon train to the stars, as he put it. And they really, really did a lot of things that didn't really make it any further than that pilot, thankfully. They borrowed hard from a lot of sci-fi stereotypes of the time in TV and movies with the way the show was actually structured, and things like, one of the scenes that stands out the most is when they're beaming and Spock yells, "The women!" Like, oh my goodness, are they really going to go there with that? There was a lot of great in the show. I mean, they really brought a lot of unique thinking to it, and yeah, the idea of a number one as Majel was fantastic. I'm sorry they didn't keep that when they went over to the actual original series. Live long and prosper.
Mark, our engineer from Chicago, you are not a dipshit. You're completely right. Everybody but Cam gets that
reference. Well played.
Thank you for calling in, Mark. Yeah.
I may not get it, but I agree. Seeing number one take control was, whoa, this is amazing. I wish this had carried over into the rest of the series. It's good stuff. Did anyone else catch the not a reference, but now it's a reference when number one gets compared to a computer?
I loved that.
I cackled.
Yep.
Just
Man,
you wait.
that was so good. So well, just sort of locked in even more how amazing Majel Barrett was and what she did for Trek in general. Like, I know that it's like, this feels like a 2023 reference to the 1960s, but it's completely in reverse. Like, this is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And Rebecca Romaine does such an incredible job. More, obviously we've kept talking about it, like not Anson Mount and Jeffrey Hunter, but man, does Rebecca Romaine really channel, Majel. There are a couple of moments during season one where it's like, oh, wow, like she's really paying homage. She's doing her own thing too, certainly. But
for sure.
I think she's just done such an incredible job fleshing out a character that should have had a lot more depth and been in Kirk's Trek as well. So yeah, hats off to Rebecca Romaine too.
I love seeing that this number one also had fantastic nails.
Yes.
Yeah.
And hair. I just
Yes.
I don't know what the equivalent is to for basic for cishet white dudes. It might still just be basic, but like, give me a tall brunette with long hair, and I'm like, wow, she is good looking. Like, man, I
What's
didn't
your
even
wife look
care
like,
about
Jesse?
Well, yeah, I'm just
Tall brunette with blonde hair.
it's a good guess. I immediately forgot about Jeffrey Hunter. I was like, she could be the captain. Like, she knows all the same stuff.
I watched an entire episode of her just shooting rocks.
Seriously, and
trying to blast that rock face off.
To look good in those goggles is difficult, okay? And every single one of these people pulled it off. One thing, to your point, Engineer Mark, that I really liked about this was that there was a clear delineation between the officers and the what would they be called? The non-commissioned?
Petty officers or...
Yeah, like all
ensigns,
well, there was a bunch of people in jumpsuits, and then there were people in uniforms, right?
Yep.
Like, so the people in jumpsuits were probably like, oh, we work for Starfleet, and
ops,
right. And to that point, I also really like that we get transporters multiple times in this episode, but they don't really explain it. They're just like, there's clearly a beam here that sends people down to the planet. Don't worry about it.
But I love that they spend some time on. They're like, wait for it, guys. We got
like,
something for you to watch
this
tonight.
Effect. Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be amazing, guys.
This is going to blow your mind and freak in half every time we do it. And we're going to do it like 4, maybe 5 or 6 times.
This scene alone is going to sell so many TVs.
Seriously.
Yep. And as the green shirt to this episode, I was like, wow, they didn't tell us anything about that. That's so cool. I'm very glad they're just like, all right, audience is going to have to figure out what's going on here.
My biggest takeaway from that is like, how cool are the transporters? This technology is amazing. It's the future. It's awesome. And then you have Spock saying, switch to rockets. We're blasting out.
Rockets, that was it. That was the word I was trying to remember. Rockets and hyperdrive and time warp. Let's do the time warp again, guys.
Okay, now, Cameron, you know that time warp factor is still an accurate term, right? Because
it's just not a Trek term.
Well, I mean, technically it is because they said it in the first ever episode of Star Trek. But
did they?
It's this one. But they
that's what I mean. They don't use it going forward.
Space-time is one thing, right? So if you're warping space, you're warping time.
They have their own terminology, though.
But you're right. It does sound dumber to say time warp.
But rockets was the big bump. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
New caller, Andrew, has something to say about that.
Oh, good.
Hi, I'm Andrew, longtime listener, first-time caller.
Hi, Andrew.
Love the show. I just wanted to express my thoughts on The Cage by reading a Twitter thread that I had originally written before Strange New Worlds premiered. In my humble opinion, Star Trek Strange New Worlds should be a direct sequel to The Cage, and The Cage only. It should ignore all other Star Trek canon. They should only ever refer to time warp factor.
Yes.
And when the ship goes faster than light, they play the theme music, the ship goes invisible, and they can only communicate via hand signals. The Enterprise routinely gets knocked over by radio signals. Anytime anything slightly unusual happens to the ship, Spock just goes bonkers. The women! The bed sheets! My Royal Doulton! The show should randomly switch to black and white before reverting to color with no explanation.
Mm-hmm.
The second season of Strange New Worlds should consist of two-parters made mostly of reused footage from the first season episodes. I also demand that whenever Nurse Chapel and Number One are in the same scene, a wholly unnecessary split-screen scene is shown in the middle of the picture. And every week, the HR department at United Earth Space Probe Agency has to send Pike a note gently reminding him that women are allowed on the bridge now.
Andrew, welcome to Open Pike Night.
Where have you been, Andrew?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. You got to spend more time on our stage.
May I add to that list just random, bonkers, no reason montages of them traveling through space?
Yep.
That montage was everything.
That was them.
It was
filling.
everything.
The reason is that they were traveling through effing space. Are you kidding me? That's super impressive.
I kept waiting for titles to come up. I was like, oh, it's another title sequence.
We are very unlucky that montage wasn't to just the TOS music, but the TOS music with Gene Roddenberry's lyrics, because that would have been even more epic. Just saying.
That's the most Gene Roddenberry thing ever. Is like, you know what? I want credit for that. Well, Gene, it's a song, and you're not a musician. Oh, just you wait. I'll get credit for your song. Like, man. But it sounds like new caller Andrew might agree with our friend Sophia that we met at Fan Expo Portland that Una needs more time on screen and she needs more development. And I gotta point out, like, it feels like there was a direct answer to the line that they knew people would remember Pike for, which is can't get used to women on the bridge, right? Which again, I think is intentional. They're trying to show that he is flawed and that women should be on the bridge and that he needs to get used to that because they have the creator's wife. That's
incredibly generous of you, Jesse.
Dude, the creator's wife is on the bridge as the first officer.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know what they're doing with that whole like friend zoning her, and
there's no way to know because I wasn't there. I'm just saying, if he's the kind of guy that's all about his wife,
they were cheating around with each other at the time. Right?
There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
It seems like he really trusted her opinion, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Hot take. What if the Lower Deck Strange New Worlds crossover is exactly this? Like this whole idea, right? And they just do all of this dumb shit that they did during the pilot, because that would just be perfect.
That would
crossover.
Be
montages. Boimler, like Boimler yelling on the bridge a la Spock would be perfect.
This is how I've seen it done in the holobat deck.
Well, and I think they could easily use the Telosians as an excuse for here's why everybody's animated, or here's why these animated people are real, etc.
Oh man!
I also think that the Agonizer booths in Discovery's Mirror Universe are probably like operating by being plugged into a Telosian in the way that the city in Lift Us was plugged into a little kid. But going going back to what I was saying, I feel like they specifically addressed the line that Pike would be remembered for, which is no women on the bridge, by putting like 8 women on his bridge.
Yeah.
in
Only
Strange
women
New
on the
Worlds.
bridge.
Like,
Well, or maybe that line is canon and Starfleet was like, this is your therapy. We're doing what's called exposure therapy.
If you
Like,
want to stay
and,
in
like,
space.
we won't see that episode until like season 3 when he's like, I cannot take it anymore.
Cybok meets him and he's like, share your pain. And he's like, dude.
Obviously, Kirk did not like having all the women on the bridge because they're
No.
all gone by TOS.
He's going to fire them.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the thing. Like, yeah. I mean, we don't have to get into like the whole, pilot and why they changed it. But I was surprised that Wikipedia didn't have that much information on it. Just what we had said earlier. They didn't really like it. They thought it was too cerebral, but they wanted him to make another one. And then I guess Jeffrey Hunter didn't want to be in it anymore. That's why they changed it. But it was weird that they went from like, yeah, can we maybe mix up the races by about 100%, but take out some of the women? Like, what? What was the thinking there? I don't know.
They're like, you can be progressive with guys. All right.
Like, yeah, apparently
if
that was
If you're
it.
going to be progressive, you be progressive with men. All right. That kind of sounds like something
One
TV
woman on the
would
bridge,
do.
one only. Yep.
Yeah.
That's
But
it.
but it's, to both points, I think that Strange New Worlds wisely took the beautiful bones of the concept that this episode definitely is presenting, right? And went, okay, but what if the people were good?
Yeah.
I'd like to offer one more thing to add to Andrew's list. Was it Andrew?
Mhm, Andrew. Yep.
His fantastic list. Is that going forward there, all the screens that they look at of any alien species just looks like police sketches for some reason.
Yes.
Okay.
Why does Spock have a police sketch of a Telosian?
My wish
None
then,
of them saw a Telosian. Where did this picture come from?
the computer. My wish then is I want more people with clipboards with mechanical clips and printouts on the bridge.
I was just
Yes,
about to say more
printouts that are
printouts,
obviously
please.
being pushed through from the backside.
Yeah. I want and here's why I want printouts on the bridge. This is not arbitrary. I'm not just saying this to be funny. Think about it, you guys. We thought we were going to be rid of paper like 40 years ago when the internet got
Oh, yeah.
invented. And then people were like, oh, there's never going to be paper again. Then we invented printers. And if you have a job in an office, paper has not gone away.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Y'all, I still print out paper outlines for our pod. That's me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm that guy.
We went paperless
Julian's
on our
fault.
permit system a
It
couple
is.
jobs ago I had, and we went from a 3-page permit to a 10-page permit once it was printed out. Because it's like, yeah, you're still required to have this hanging on the door when somebody's working. I was like, okay, here's all 10 pages. Like, yeah, this is working.
When
This is
somebody with a badge
paperless.
shows up to your office and goes, show me your documentation, you don't want to be like, let me scroll through 1,000 files on my computer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, oh, these are federally regulated. We have to have copies of them, hard copies. So,
I'm going to also
Yeah.
add Goggle Tuesdays, please.
Oh, you know they're going to have the goggles, right? They got to have. What
At some
did they
point.
have goggles in Strange New Worlds?
Were they wearing
Yes.
them on Ghost of
On
Illyria?
Ghost of
a
Illyria?
Ghost of Illyria, I think they're wearing them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just go back and watch that. I'm always so focused on Ensign Chalamet that I can't pay attention to the rest of
I'm
the story.
glad that we're all on the same page
You,
with that.
you might enjoy the deleted scenes on the Blu-rays.
Ooh, I was just going to say, you have a reason to go back and rewatch it all,
John,
Jesse.
how could you possibly know that? What are you talking about?
Well, if you're listening to the podcast, today, the day it comes out, the 21st of March, we're going to be doing a little live stream tonight because we got some advanced copies of the Strange New World Season 1 Blu-rays, and we're going to be talking about some of the special features and sharing a little bit here and there that we have permission from Paramount to share. So check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@OpenPike. We'll be doing a live stream tonight.
Hope to see you there. You can come yell at us about all our Cage opinions and references.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
And
pretty awesome.
going through just a straight up list of what I loved, I really like the phasers from the Cage.
Yeah.
Like those are cool looking hand phasers, and the big laser gun. Like, hey, look at that! They actually have bigger weapons than a handheld phaser or a rifle.
Mhm.
Thank you. Like, yeah, there are drills. There are other tools in the future.
And in 90s Star Trek or 2000s Star Trek, do not at me because you know this is true. If there was a character going, we could have cut through that wall and we'd never know because they're doing a mind illusion on us, they would never cut to the version of that wall that is exploded and destroyed and the like the door is torn down, they would just not show that because they'd be like, oh, we don't have the budget for that, so we wrote that line in.
Yeah.
But here in the 60s, they did it, and it was effective both
And
times.
it looked
in my
cool as
opinion.
hell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really liked it.
Every time Boyce said that, because Boyce kept saying like, it could be illusions. Look, number one, be careful. It could be illusions. All I heard was, they're illusions, Michael.
Yeah.
That's all I
It's
heard
not a
every
trick,
time.
Michael. Part of my illusion.
Illusions.
How did matte paintings get worse 20 years after
Right?
after this episode was made?
They're so good.
I legitimately want that matte painting.
Yeah.
From
They were
Talos.
so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one of Mojave, was that it?
Yeah, well, that was
That
good
one
too.
was
But
good
just
too.
the one
That
on
was
the
great.
planet, like on Talos.
Yeah.
Yeah, Talos was, I was like, man, these are gorgeous paintings.
I was like, oh, I can see the ripples where they unfolded their backdrop. And I was like, oh, no, that's rain in the distance. That's beautiful. Like,
Oh,
that's
man.
gorgeous.
I mean,
was
that's true.
very
The
impressed.
60s, 70s, and 80s was like the peak of matte painting skills. And it's been a lost art since then.
Star Wars is
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Oh, man.
And the model work on this, like I know that they say Star Wars killed a lot of TOS from going on with the technological advances. Like, hey man, they swept up and over and into the Enterprise in one shot of this. That looked super cool. And again, one of those like, man, 60 years ago. Yeah, does it look cheesy as hell now? Is it fun? Yes, it's fun. And it was cutting edge back then.
Well, even the I would say the editing overall is pretty good. Like even the cut between choking a Telosian and choking a pig gorilla and back, like that was really well done.
Yeah.
Guys, we have seen some god-awful transformations of old Troy to young Troy in TNG.
yes.
But that transformation of Vina, that was
note.
really well done.
Yeah, so good.
Significantly
spent some
better than
time
the
on that.
McCoy makeup in TNG. Like
100% 30, 40 years later.
Like it's like the stage makeup art along with the matte painting art was lost, and they were like, "Oh, just do makeup for TV. It's different now." Like
When
having
Pulaski
said
has
that-
to go from old to really old as well.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Having said that, I am a sucker for the sci-fi trope of they didn't know how to put us together, or they took us apart to see how we ticked. Like, I love that twist ending in any sci-fi story. But like the Telosians are a bipedal
Humanoid race.
Humanoid race. They, they're symmetric. They wouldn't look at her and be like, "Oh, we need to give her a hump on one shoulder." Why would they think that?
What hump?
Like, the only thing they got right was her head, which is the only part that's different from the Telosians.
Well, they screwed up the face too. Is kind of
Well, yeah, but the back of the head, like they got her hair right. That should be the one thing that like tripped them up. But no,
Right.
they got that fine.
Yeah.
That's a very specific complaint in the
100%,
long history
absolutely.
of specific complaints from Trekkies. I love it. Cameron has become a full-on Trekkie, you guys.
Oh, yeah.
I hope so.
We had one write in from another Kate. I agree that the cage hasn't aged well, and seeing a more easygoing Pike without a sexist attitude is a welcome change. I've been struck by how Una's supposed attraction to Pike has yet to be addressed, although I understand that the Trek writers only consider content from the menagerie to be canon. I
didn't know that.
Mhm.
I think I remember an interview where Anson Mount and Rebecca Romaine said their headcanon was that Pike and Una are exes, so I wonder if the writers have ever considered this notion. That being said, and speaking as a Pike-Una shipper, I like how Pike and Una are written and presented as close friends and colleagues who admire and respect each other. And I like that because they tried to do a little bit of that, it feels like, at the beginning of the cage with the, not you,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about you as a woman, but it was poorly acted and it was the 60s. They didn't have the...
Yeah, it was really clunky. Didn't they imply some attraction in the elevator short trek?
Yes.
Yes.
I think so.
They did.
Q&A?
No, they did.
Yeah.
They did. I don't see any of that yet in Strange New
No.
Worlds. I also just want to say, Trek writers consider what's canon, what's not canon, when whatever it is convenient to them. It's really
episode.
true.
Yeah.
Whether it's the menagerie or the cage or the animated series is the best example. Sometimes it's canon and sometimes it's not.
That's where the
Whatever.
holodeck came from.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if I'm a Pike Una shipper either. I think it was this very like 60s trope. Stars have to be together. I don't know if I would like be mad if it happened, but I just like I see them as two people that really respect each other and are best of best friends, but would never take it to that level.
Yeah.
That's how I see it right now.
I agree. I think they're work husband and work wife.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
They stand up for each other's ideas. Yeah. They're helping each other keep everybody in line, and they trust each other, as evidenced by the fact that when Pike gets like his Terminator fate thing going on, she's the one who's like, you know, what if you had a Linda Hamilton attitude about it? And he's like, you know, I've considered it. Point being, I agree with you, Julian. I don't know that it's so much, or I personally don't see so much of a romantic relationship there as just a very high, pure respect from other professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that having been said, neither of them is stupid, right? Like, they're probably both like, yeah, it doesn't
We could
hurt
have some great
that my
looking kids.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt that my first officer is incredibly attractive, and she's, you know, probably at bars and stuff. She's probably like, yeah, I serve with Pike. Do you know how easy that is to do? Like, it's like you can appreciate that without being a weirdo. Like, and they don't have to. And not that I think, you know, I don't think that our write in is indicating that she thinks they're probably a weirdo in their version of the ship or anything. But like, I think that they can have the mutual respect and the understanding of attraction without being an item, as it were. And I think a big part of that is really illustrated at the end of Quality of Mercy when she gets arrested and he's like furious with Patel and and she's like, dude, I'm sorry. And he's like, I'm seriously like more focused on getting her back than I am being mad at you right now, which is to me like an indicator. No, my ship doesn't function without all of the team members.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, my heart is broken.
But I think there's also, they are best friends. And even if it's not like a romantic love, like he loves her as like, you know, someone who've known each other for a really long time, and he will go to hell or high water to get her back, even if it means his career. So
I agree with all that. I like their headcanon. I could see them totally, not as long-term relationship. I could see that maybe they slept together once and either went, oh, this is that was awkward. That's not for us. Or maybe after that they got assigned to the same ship and were like, well, got to put a stop to that.
Yeah.
But I mean, Pike, we know he's into a casual relationship, so that's not a stretch for me.
I think for me, if like to see them in an actual relationship, to me, I would believe only if it were literally they're long-term stranded, the only two people on a planet, and like,
oh, so you mean Janeway and
9
Chakotay.
or 10 months later, like, yeah, it's like, yeah, there's no impossibility of attraction there between them. It's like, yeah, there's nothing that we've seen that says there's an unrequited thing going on here.
Now,
but it's not impossible.
Well, and Una does have that Illyrian immune system, right? So we don't know
the
if
kids would never need a vaccine.
Well, we don't know if copulation is even possible with an immune system like that, right? Just burns out intruders, as she put it. Like we don't. I mean, that could be that could double as birth control. We don't know.
I'm going to credit the Illyrians with being a little smarter than that.
You would. You're such an Illyrian homer. Typical John, the Illyrian homer.
An Illyrian apologist.
Illyrians.
Yeah.
I like all the
Ooh, I like
Illyrians, you know? We have one more caller, our old friend Kelly.
Hi, Open Pike and Julian. This is Kelly Zent-Georgi, or Antipodal on Twitter.
Oh, hi, Kelly.
In the Star Trek original episode, The Cage, there was no explanation given as to why such a large party was on Rigel 7, a pre-warp culture planet. In that episode, Pike revealed that 3 crew members were killed and 7 were wounded, including Ensign Spock, Lieutenant Jose Tyler, the helmsman, and the geologist. That's 10 crew members plus Pike, maybe one more, that were in the landing party. A rescue mission? Why did they enter the fortress? This, to me, is the biggest mystery about this episode. In the Star Trek Strange New World Season 2 sneak preview, dialogue reveals that they are returning to Rigel 7 and are disguised as Kalerans. What is the reason for the return to Rigel 7? Hopefully, all of this will be revealed in the episode. Live long and prosper. Kelly signing off. Hailing frequencies are closed.
Kelly, welcome back to the Open Pike Night Stage. Yeah, that's a great question. So we know from TOS they have historians on board and geologists now. That's a great question. Like, that's a big landing party.
Well, TOS is before the holodeck, so I think they just go to Rigel 7 when they want to LARP.
Possibly.
Dude, I was just going to say sweet, sweet revenge. I just think Pike wants some revenge.
That's what we know of this new Pike.
Yes, exactly.
Mostly motivated by
Very
revenge.
vengeance driven, yeah.
Okay. Now, not to be that guy, but if you go back and listen to our interview with Melissa Navia, we asked her for a one-word tease from season 2. The word she gave us was weapons.
Yep.
When they're on the illusory Rigel 7, Princess Vina runs out to Pike and says, "It's deserted. There'd be weapons and perhaps food."
Oh, there's lots of weapons. We see...
Oh my gosh. And we know that she's dressed
Pause
in the...
your thought there for one moment, Jesse, because she also gives the weirdest fucking look to the camera I've ever seen on a TV
series. Weirder than Jake Lloyd looking at his cue card in The Phantom Menace?
Yeah, because it's like
he was 9.
I know, that's a low blow. I'm sorry, Jake Lloyd.
Literally punching down. No, I mean, this is, maybe Boyce is on Rigel 7 and they go back. That's a maybe. I do think what's going to happen, this is my real theory and query for season 2, is we know Ortegas gets left on the ship and the rest of them go down there. I don't know why they're going down there, Kelly. I'm sorry, I'm not answering your question. I don't know why. But when they do go down there, they all get captured by the giant General Kale guy and are being held at sword point and mace point and halberd point. And Ortegas has to go on a rescue mission, and Ortegas gets to go down and gets to sword fight her ass off with all sorts of weapons because Melissa Navia is really into doing fantasy stuff and sword play, and I think she's that excited because she got a whole episode about doing it. Yeah. I think that's what's going to happen.
Hashtag solo Tegas.
That's right.
I forget, was Uhura on the landing party in that scene that we saw?
No, I bet she has to take a rescue party because she's
Uhura
also
has to go
talked
down
a
there because
lot.
those guys don't talk. They go, yeah. So she has to translate the grunts.
That's true. That's true.
Her badge fell off when she got down to the planet. My guess is that this is one of the first instances where we see Starfleet going, well, let's just observe a pre-warp culture without like affecting them, except let's also deceive them while we do it. That's fine, right? And this will be the first, instance where Pike goes, hey, let's not deceive the people when we do that. And there will be an incident and there will have to be a rescue. That's my guess.
Yeah, last time we did that, I made them join the Federation or go to World War III. So
no, the last time he did that, he may have fathered the next battery for a floating city.
Oh my God, you're right too.
They were not pre-warp.
In all seriousness, though, it's really weird for Starfleet to be sending them back to that planet when the captain had a traumatic experience there. It doesn't make sense. Then again, Starfleet and mental health have never been, words that you put in the same sentence. So I don't know, but really, like, it doesn't make any sense.
Maybe they get a message. One of the people they thought who had died on the planet is still alive and there.
That would be awesome.
That's a brilliant idea,
really
Cameron.
good.
I think that would be a
5
good
years
plot
later,
for an episode, personally.
Yeah.
Wow, now I'm super distracted.
I do just want to also mention, this is, the first time, that's only the second time I watched The Cage, but they very subtly put in all the injuries in those crew members, even like Spock's limp that you see in one shot and blink and you miss it.
Yes.
And the one guy with the
one on the
badge, like you're not going to show like a full face burn or something. Like if you want us to understand that the crew is currently injured, great, but they went kind of subtle on that.
It's interesting that you bring up mental health, Julian, because we actually talked in season 1 about how we think Pike is really gearing up to be the first captain to put a counselor on the bridge. And that's why Troy is present in TNG, because we feel like his encounter with Captain Angel made him realize, hey, having a counselor around on a ship like this might actually be super helpful, as long as they don't turn out to be evil and try to hijack it. And, so it, like, I think that actually, if they're going, like, hey, you need to go back to this place, maybe this is our first instance of them going, hey, we got a cool new therapy program. It's all about, I don't know, immersion or something. And that's how we get introduced to our first counselor. But very good eye, Kelly. I think that this is going to be one of our biggest encounters with continuity, so to speak, so far in Strange New Worlds, because the first season, hugely episodic, like lots of little references to stuff, but it didn't touch too much until the 10th episode on stuff that has already definitely happened, right? So I think they may lean a little bit harder to that into season 2. We don't know, but it's coming up soon, I really think and hope.
That's what I've been saying.
Yeah.
It either is or it isn't, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like it will definitely be out in May or later.
Or September. Yeah.
Yeah. We definitely have Schrodinger's New Worlds coming up at some point.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe. I don't know.
Even when the actors talk about it, they're like very excited to start season 3 so that when they're promoting something, it isn't something they finished 2 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, just some of the things I like. I mean, we mentioned the Telosians, but like I loved everything about them pretty much. I thought like the design was amazing, the throbbing heads, the voices, the way they like talked with the telepathy. That doesn't always work in movies and TVs, and they did a really good job with all that.
And Pike understands what telepathy is, but doesn't understand what it feels like to experience it.
I do. That is one of my favorite lines of the episode when he's like, all right, then, telepathy. It's just like the most 60s line in delivery
right.
ever.
But before that, he's like, what's going on? And they're like, oh, he can't understand telepathy. He's like, oh, telepathy. No, I get telepathy.
Yeah, okay.
You just didn't tell me that's what we were doing. Like,
And
What?
the one very, and like, it's like, okay, there's just super fun moments in here of, you know, humor that still happens today. Like, okay, we're going to narrate this as the guy goes, you know, and starts to, like, he's going to bash on the window now to show how strong he is. Like, well, now I'm not going to do that. It's like, Chappelle's shows still use that same kind of humor. Like, they still use that humor all over the place, and it's funny every time.
Yeah.
I really like this is the first time I noticed it that they do like the whole like dressing scene when they're going on the away team, like with their phasers and their coats and stuff. And they did a couple of those in Strange New Worlds when they're going. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. This is very cagey. That was awful.
it's like a Jim Jarmusch trick, right?
Yeah.
Like here's had them on their way to being on an away team.
Yep. Exactly.
I think we have to talk about the best looking lady in this whole episode, you guys. I mean, they nailed it right away with the design of the Enterprise, because
thank God that's what you said, because that's what I was going to say.
I was just like, I mean, right away, right? You're like, it's an iconic design. Like, obviously, nobody's going to say anything new here about the design of the Enterprise. Julian has it tattooed on his body because it's the kind of design that when you see it, you go, that is iconic. There is something about this that is immediately evocative of what this thing does, which is just haul ass through space full of gorgeous people all the time doing fun stuff. I mean, really, that's the essence of Star Trek, right? The essence of Star Trek is pretty people being good at their jobs in a very pretty workspace. And they really nailed that right here in the pilot. And I think that's why it carries over to every single series from here on out.
I did just want to say the one thing I did not like about the Telosians is that though they are super advanced and have this amazing technology and telepathy powers and everything, but to feed their zoo people, they have to sneak in on their hands and knees and slowly slide a little wooden door to the side when they hope
Cameron, they're not omnipotent. Okay.
So ridiculous.
I think what that is.
So stupid.
Right. But like, I think they're meant to be going, well, we can do this because we're making the illusion that we're not doing this. So they're not going to see
Why don't they do that? Why don't they make the illusion that they're not doing
It's just that Pike was
because
so angry.
They're cocky as hell.
No.
And everybody in that cell is very lucky that Pike didn't start swinging that phaser around in frustration.
I'm right.
Like, okay, remove the illusion. Oh, number one and the yeoman are dead because I just phasered the crap out
Pike
of
was so close to breaking this entire episode. Everybody could have been dead. Absolutely.
Well, and I'm sorry, but was Una like moments away from vaporizing the entire landing party and the Telosians before Pike was like, all right, turn it off?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
casually. All right, turn it off.
Yeah, because when they came back up that elevator, I'm like, wow, they destroyed half a mountain with that laser.
Yeah. Una was the most reckon-withable force in this episode. Like, that's all there is to it.
All right. Any closing thoughts before we...
It struck me how much of this episode is all about sex and violence.
Yes.
It's about trying to get Pike laid and then him trying to be angry to not get laid. That's
and again,
the crutch of the episode.
I feel like it's almost them trying to go like, look how good he is at resisting anger and wanting to get laid. Like,
yeah,
I think
I'd rather
in the
be
60s,
with my horse.
Yeah, like I think in the 60s they're like, look at that's a stand-up guy, right? And it's like, or he could just focus on other stuff. Like,
but he doesn't really resist being. I mean, he's a very aggressive captain, even when he's not doing the channeling his anger for the sake of the Telosians.
Right. And I mean, like I said, when he met the good-looking orphan, he was immediately like, hello.
Yeah, just dead stop on what he's saying. Like, girl, everybody, just girl. Like,
Boyce is like still talking to him.
To be fair, still a bit of a bumbling idiot around women when what's her name transports where like, I'm lieutenant, no captain, I'm the guy on the ship, you know.
Yep. 100%. I gotta say, I feel like that is one thing that they kept, right? Is that women around this character will be attracted to this character. Like, it's not that Pike is necessarily a womanizer or that he's, you know, sleazy or something. It's that he's a good-looking guy and he knows how boundaries work.
Has there been a Star Trek captain where that wasn't the case?
Picard?
Especially Picard.
You haven't seen him in his riding boots.
He's just...
so many episodes are about women being inextricably attracted to him.
I mean... maybe like 3 or 4 episodes.
The perfect mate.
Yeah, that is a episode.
That's an episode a season, at least.
I will say I've never seen a more like diverse group of Trek fans be attracted to Christopher Pike now. Men, women, transgender, non-binary. Everybody wants to fuck Chris Pike.
Love new Trek, hate new Trek, love original, hate original.
It doesn't matter. Just, like, people want it in Chris Pike's pants.
Yeah.
It's like...
and I love how clueless Anson Mount is about that.
I don't think he is he?
No.
He plays clueless.
I would say that he plays it very cool, but he knows. He knows what's up. Like...
I met him in Chicago and I just went up to him like, oh, Captain, my captain.
He totally knows what's up.
Dear eyes.
Yeah, we met him in Portland. I told him, hey, man, my mom loved you in Hell on Wheels. It's like, she's the demographic.
Yeah.
I loved him on Hell. That's how I know him is through Hell on Wheels.
That's mostly how I knew him.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I just love how everyone on the crew and the cast were like, yeah, I guess he has nice hair. I don't get it. I was like, what do you mean? How did not everyone just stop what they were doing?
Yeah. Because to them, they were like, oh, he went to hair and makeup, but then he did the show.
Yeah,
and,
I guess.
You know, I went to hair and makeup and I did the show. It's like, what?
Yeah,
no,
but you didn't come out looking like that.
Right.
Yeah. They must have had to notch door frames at the top for him to walk through. Come on.
The set looked like Harry in the Henderson's house.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a very specific reference.
I don't get that. I'm 30.
No, you're too young. By about 3 years.
That's one of my favorite things to do on this show.
Julian, why don't you tell us about Strange New Pod? Where people can find you.
Hey, you could find Strange New Pod everywhere that you go on social media at Strange New Pod, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. We're in all those places. Also, YouTube. We go live every single Thursday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. We're currently covering all of any Trek that's on right now with Picard season 3. So yeah, at Strange New Pod is where to find us. We just covered Imposters 305 of Picard and had the wonderful Jesse Gender on. So check that out for sure.
And if you like the community-based format that you get from Open Pike Night, definitely check out Strange New Pod.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And your Discord server is fantastic too to hang out on, and just such a great group of people there following you and are doing great work and have absolutely earned the audience and the following you have.
Oh, that means a lot.
As like a casual, like, oh, they're on right now, I'm going to jump into YouTube and chat in the chat with people. Like, if you've ever been in a YouTube chat, you know how those can be. It's not like that on Strange New Pod. I'm like, hey, I'm here for the chat. And 100 people go, hey, welcome in. Great to have you here. Thanks for joining us. It's like, it legitimately is a beautiful community of Trekkies, which is, Julian, when I tell you guys that you guys set the bar for Community Strange New Worlds podcasts, man, it's literally true. So thank you for putting out a quality product and for giving people another space to share their thoughts about Star Trek.
Thank you for saying that. It really does mean more than you could possibly know, because from day one, that's what we strive to do, is to be as open as you possibly can and not have some of the, more negative things that happens with fandoms and large groups. And we've been able to maintain that magically somehow. So it really means a lot that everybody feels so welcome, and very kind words. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been so much fun.
It's been a blast having you.
Jesse, how can folks find more out about Open Pike?
The easiest way that there is to get everything that there is to get from Open Pike Night is to go to openpike.com. While you're there, you'll find links to our Discord, all of our social media, which of course is just at Open Pike, whether you're on Twitter or Instagram. And you can go to openpike.com/join us to record your voice to be included on our next episode, much like everyone here has done today. You can also sign up for our Substack, which will get you the newsletter. You'll be aware of guests before other people are aware of them, and you can have direct links in there to submit your voice. Of course, Open Pike Night wouldn't be the show that it is without you, so please go to openpike.com/join us and send something in.
We do have a Patreon for those who feel like keeping support going for independent Star Trek podcasting. We like to keep it as ad-free as possible. And right now, we do have a contest going for once we hit 50 patrons, we are going to be giving away a Open Pike Night Kiss the Quaff apron that has been autographed by Anson Mount and Ethan Peck. So for as little as $2 a month, you can show some support and just share the love you have for Open Pike Night and Strange New Worlds, and maybe get a really nice apron that if you cook with, oh my God, we're going to be so mad at you.
We're about halfway there, so make sure you go sign up for that. And definitely,
I think it'll be funny if you do it.
Definitely check us out.
It's your apron.
On the social medias, because you'll see the picture of us with Anson Mount holding that up, which is right after he thought it said kiss the goif. And you can see on my face that I'm just completely mortified. And he's just standing there very graciously. Guy takes a great picture. I don't know if you've all noticed that.
He really does.
Cameron, where can people find you?
Yeah, if you want to be the Adam to my Eve, you can join us over on Green Shirt, a newbie's trek through the next generation, where we are just working our way through season 6 of TNG for my very first time. We just watched Chain of Command Part 1. I haven't watched Part 2 yet. By the time you watch this, I probably will have, but it's been good. You can join us at GreenShirt87 on Twitter, or listen to us wherever you're listening to this pod.
Jesse, where can folks find more of you?
I just stole 50 starships for you in 24 hours.
Where's my pig?
Yeah,
is that him? I don't know.
Where's my Targ?
Well, that's it. There we go.
Damn it.
I'm sorry, John. What did you ask me? If for whatever reason you need more of me in your life, you can stay in this podcasting app and look up Sudden But Inevitable. That's the show where I get my friends to like the stuff I feel like they probably should have seen already. Shows like Firefly, Cowboy Bebop, and a little bit of etc. in there. I was also recently a guest on the Quest Me podcast talking about that other star-based franchise. I think they've got a show out called The Mandalorian or something like that. I was there. I was very gracious. I was hilarious. And I brought some seriously hard-hitting analysis, so definitely go check out the most recent episode of Quest Me.
I'm going to steal the Declaration of the Kittimer Accords. Is that anything?
I
no?
like that. It's not Nicolas Cage, but I like it.
Oh, okay. Okay, no.
I can be found on Twitter at John T. Bolds. Again, check out Open Pike on Twitter or Instagram.
And be sure to tune in tonight for our review of the Strange New Worlds Blu-ray.
We'll have a little bit of content to share and discuss the special features there, and just have a chance to look behind the curtain a little bit about season 1 of Strange New Worlds. It's been a long night, and the Open Pike Night crew has to down our protein drinks, curl up on our rock beds, and just find the love of our lives, whoever the aliens decide they are for us. So be sure to clean up after yourselves. Thanks for coming. You can go anywhere you want, but you can't stay here.
The women!
The women!